Hi everyone, my name is Tori, this is Nova Life, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have another romance recommendations video, and I'm going to be giving you romance recommendations with tortured heroes. So these are like damaged heroes, they have like emotional trauma, past, all of that stuff, and it kind of like bleeds into the romance, and they have to kind of like work through that with the female character. Let me tell you, this is one of my favorite things to read, and I'm not joking, it's literally one of my favorite things to read. I have read some really good tortured heroes recently, which is why I'm doing this romance recommendations video. So if you see some of my recent reads on here, it's because I've been loving it. And it's not like I'm going to search for it. It just so happens to be in the books I'm reading. So I have a decent list to share with you. We're just going to jump into my most recent read that I've read, and that is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. So I did a whole reading vlog for my patrons where I just read this book, and it took me like 2 days to read it. It took me a weekend. It was the best. I look awful in that because I just wanted to sit down and read. I wasn't paying attention to, you know, putting on my makeup and all that stuff like that. When I tell you this romance took me by surprise, it really did. So this is a fantasy romance. It's Rebecca Yarros' first fantasy romance, I think, and I personally think she did a really good job. So this whole story, I mean, you basically follow our female character, Violet. She is dealing with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So there's that chronic illness representation, which I thought was spot on for this book. But also you have this hero that is older than her who actually wants to kill her because her mother is responsible for killing his dad because his dad was leading the rebellion and her mother killed him and executed him, and now he is like scarred and marked. So he has a lot of trauma, but when he like first meets this female character, he's like, what are you doing here? Are you supposed to be a scribe? And she's like, my mom put me into the writer's quadrant, which is where, you know, most of the people actually die. It has the highest death rate for this college, this war college. And when I tell you, this book is packed with so much goodness, but the tortured hero really comes out towards the last half of the book because that's where the romance really comes in. But I feel like this is a very unique fantasy romance that I haven't read because they have dragons. They're not shifters, so don't expect like paranormal shifters in that way. They are writers. So our female character, Violet, she actually bonds with a dragon, I will say that, but it's in a very different way that no one has ever seen before. Sorry, the book is slipping because of the dust jacket, but I love Xaden. I think that's how you say his name. It's Xaden. I absolutely loved him. I thought he was a fantastic character. I was obsessed with him. I loved him. I am obsessed with this book, and it's one of my favorite reads of the year, I'll tell you that. So just go read it. It's so good. So good. Just expect more fantasy at the beginning and romance towards the end. It does end on a huge cliffhanger. The next book comes out in November. Oh, I have to wait that long, but it's fine. It's fine. I'll wait because I have to know what happens, but I really did love this book. Another book I read recently was My Dark Romeo by Parker S. Huntington and L.J. Shen. So I've heard a lot of people say you either love it or you hate it. That's one of these books. It's either you absolutely love it or you absolutely hate it. There's very few people I've seen that are in between. I just so happen to be one of those people that really enjoyed it. I didn't like 5-star love it. I gave it 4 stars, but I would highly recommend it if you're looking for a wild and bananas time. But our female character, you see her at the beginning. She is engaged to someone else, and then all of a sudden she is put in this compromising position with Romeo. Yes, that's his name. He puts her in this compromising position to where everyone sees what they're doing behind this little curtain. And that kind of leads him to having to marry her. Now, this is all part of his revenge plan to get revenge on her now ex-fiance, I guess. So yes, they are forced to marry, and she is forced to kind of go live with him in his house that is pretty far away from her family. And when I tell you he has a past, he definitely has a past. But his like tortured soul comes out in like the most weird ways. Like, he doesn't want children, which is not like out of the ordinary. I've read a lot of books where the hero does not want children, but it's like taken a step farther with our female character. She literally takes things to a crazy and bananas level, I'll just say that. But I really love that he was tortured, but also he had this like sense of protectiveness to our female character, and I personally enjoyed that. I thought this was a fun time. Highly suggest listening to the audiobook because Jacob Morgan does it, who's also Zachary Weber, but It is spicy, it is good, it is steamy. I thought it was bananas, but I had a good time with it, and I love the ending when we find out his past and why he does certain things, and it just makes you fall in love with him even more. The next one I have is The Summer We Fell by Elizabeth O'Rourke. So for this one, I mean, both characters are very tortured, I'm not gonna lie, but they both have different kind of tortured past, I guess you could say. So in this case, our female character, she is actually dating the main male character's best friend. So it's like the boyfriend's best friend trope. It's very forbidden, very taboo. And oh, the way that this story was told was so good. It's past to present. I'm someone who doesn't always like past to present, but I think that Elizabeth O'Rourke did it well in here. So we see this kind of like second chance romance. But you see our female character, now that she's older, she is this famous singer, and our main male character, Luke, he is a surfer. Now, he has a tortured past because he kind of was, he just doesn't have the best home life, and he kind of left when he was pretty young, kind of like our female character did too. So they have this like kindred spirit with their past a little bit. So it makes for such a good story where you have both of these characters who are going through, especially because we go to the past where we see why they are and where they are at because of those things like that happen in their past. I'm trying to be very vague because I don't want to spoil anything, but I personally loved it with all the aspects and, you know, them being forced together because he's staying with them for the summer. There's just so many layers with this book, and you see all of that kind of like play out throughout the book, and you're literally like hanging on to every page literally until the end. And I personally really enjoyed this, and I love Luke so much. Like, I fell in love with him so much from the very first moment we meet him. I fell in love with him. The next one I have is A Court of Blood and Bindings by Lisette Marshall. So this is another fantasy romance that I recently read. Our main male character, if I'm not mistaken, it's Creon. He deserves the world. Like, literally, he deserves the world, and you're gonna understand what I'm saying when you read the book. He is one of those heroes that is very tortured. He also cannot speak. So the whole premise is basically our female character is taken from her kingdom by Creon, which is also, what is he called? The Silent Death. That's what he's called, because no one screams when they kill him or when he kills people. He is basically the assassin or the killer for what they call like the mother, who just is like in charge of the other kingdom where Creon takes our female character. And they have this really cool friendship that kind of develops because he realizes that she is Fae, or at least half Fae. And you find out that everyone who is Fae is bound to the mother so that they cannot attack her. And so they're trying to keep it secret that she has, you know, is basically half Fae. And they're kind of studying the history books and all this stuff like that. So while Creon is like trying to work with her, he's still bound to the mother and still has to go do all these killings. And when you find out things about him, I literally teared up when I was reading this book. I could not believe the things that he has gone through and the things he does for a female character. It is so amazing. It does end on a cliffhanger, the second book, and I think the third book now is out. It's just released, but I love him so much. I think he's everything, and I love him so much, and everyone needs to go read this fantasy romance. It's definitely an underrated fantasy romance, I'll tell you that. Definitely underrated. The next one I have is an Elsie Silver book. So I feel like a lot of Elsie Silver books do have tortured heroes, but one of my absolute favorites is A Photo Finish. So with A Photo Finish, we see that our female and we see that both characters have had a past together, but it's more like online chatting type thing. Our female character, she has done this, it's not like cam girl, but she basically will like chat with people. I don't know how to describe it without sounding really weird, but basically they've had a past and they meet because our main female character, she is, what do they call it? A jockey? Is that what they call it? I don't know. She does something with like writing and stuff like that. Our main male character is actually like this billionaire that comes to the ranch because I think his sister or brother, like he knows the couple from the first book. I have read this quite a while ago. I just remember our main male character having such a traumatic past. And there is a plot twist in this book that when I read it, I did not see it coming, to the point where I was so shocked. I absolutely love this book. Like, this is one of Elsie Silver's, I feel like, underrated books. Like, obviously the Chestnut Spring series, which is Flawless, Heartless, and Powerless, are really, really well written. But this book, I feel like, is the star of her other series. The Wishing Well series. Wishing Well Ranch series, something like that. I feel like it is the freaking star, and I love it. I think that if you want to go and read some of her backlist, start with the photo finish, because it is, like, for me, it's up there with, like, Heartless and Flawless and Powerless of how well it was written. But I feel like people forget about it because it's in her other series. But don't knock it. Definitely go try it. Definitely go read it. I love Cole so much. I love him with all of my freaking heart. I think he's a precious little baby that needs protecting, but he is such, I mean, I say that, but he's just really tortured. And when you find out why, I just love him so much. Okay, the next one I have is Rush by Emma Scott. So I recently listened to this audiobook and I was crying before halfway through this book. Like, by 50%, I cried like 2 or 3 times in this book. So we see our female character. She is working at this restaurant type thing. She has to go deliver this, this food to this one apartment that they've ordered before, but she's never had to deliver it. But she has to go, and she meets our main male character, and his last name is Rush. I'm pretty sure. But you see that he is blind, and he was in an accident where is it free climbing? I think that's what it's called. But basically he was climbing and he fell and he hit his head, and he had this, I wouldn't say brain damage, but it like messed up something to where he can't see anymore. He's completely blind. So he's living in this apartment by himself. He's basically recluse, and he's very, very fucking grumpy, which, if you know me, I love that. But he's extremely grumpy. He is so tortured because he feels like he's not like worth anything. Everything that he's wanted to do, he literally can't do anymore. And so he really struggles for the last couple years. And our female character, waltzes into his life and kind of really turns it around. He hires her to kind of like live with him, make sure everything is up to, date. Well, I would say like his assistant kind of hires her, and they have such a beautiful romance that when I tell you I was sobbing halfway through the book, I was like sobbing because I was like, this is so beautiful. He deserves the world. And it is so, it was such a good 5-star read. Like, Emma Scott knows how to get you with the emotions, and she got me with this damn book, I'll tell you that. But I listened to the audio and it was really, really good, which is probably why I cried, because the narrators did a really good job with it. The last book I have to talk about is Divine River by Marietta Vivancos. So I talked about this novella before, and I wanted to put a novella on there because sometimes with tortured heroes, you have to go on this journey of 300, 400, 500 pages to get their story, which sometimes I'm in the mood for that, and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I want a really quick novella. And I think Marietta Vivancos, from what I've read from her, does really good novellas, like a story in a novella-length book. And with this one, it's kind of one of those books where it's an MM romance, but they kind of have one of the main male characters is kind of having like an awakening of, that he's maybe bisexual or maybe that he is gay. One of our main male characters moves in next to him, and it's very much Grumpy Sunshine. He is very much bubbly and like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, what's going on? Oh, hi, neighbor. Like that kind of. And the other guy is like, what are you doing? Right? And you see that he's only open to his sister. And when he finally does come out to his friends are like, finally. But the romance between them two is really like this very gentle friends to lovers, and I thought it was actually beautiful the way that the story was told, because you see that they have this really deep connection. But the main male character I don't remember names, I'm so sorry. The main male character that's super sunshiny understands what he's going through because he's been there. He's out, but he understands that when you haven't come out, the struggles that you deal with. So he kind of like recognizes that, and he really helps the other main male character really come out. And he's tortured. He has a lot of stuff to deal with his parents and his family and stuff like that. And you kind of do see it. But I really enjoyed this novella. I think Marietta Vivancos is an author that I've heard from Books with Samantha talk about a lot, and she's really underrated. I think a lot of people would love her stuff if they read it. She's just not super well known, and she doesn't have paperbacks and she doesn't have audiobooks. But the ebooks that she has, they're really quick reads, like 200 pages, 250 or less. I think this one's 180 or maybe less than 100. I could be totally wrong, but it's very, very short and I really enjoyed it. But that is all of the books that I have for this Tortured Heroes romance recommendation video. For the emoji, drop me what kind of emoji? I always struggle because I never think of an emoji before I film the video. Drop me like a crying emoji, like one of the emojis that has like the tear that's like, because we all love a tortured hero and we always feel bad for them. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content from me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.